Welcome back, Clone Club. I'm Will Link. With me, as always,
Megan Salinas.
And we are going to be breaking down Season 5, Episode 4, Let the Children and Childbearers Toil. This episode is it really examines a lot of the mother-daughter relationship. Mm-hmm. You got Sarah and Kira, they're at a tumultuous time in their relationship. S and Sarah.
Yeah.
You even got Susan talking a lot about her relationship with Rachel. And even you find out the backstories of the mother of Lita, which would be Susan, and the mother of Castor, bringing back Blast from the Past, Virginia Cody.
I wasn't sure we were ever going to see her again.
I assumed she was long gone. I didn't necessarily know if they killed her, but I think the last time we saw her, Ferdinand was getting in a car and
hi, I'm Ferdinand.
Yeah.
It's just oh gosh.
I didn't think that. But before we get into this, and we should get into it because there's a lot going on, I made a error last week.
Oh, is this Corrections Corner?
This is Corrections Corner. And so many people pointed it out to me that I figured I better bring it up.
It needs to be addressed.
I said last week that I was pretty sure Allison had met Rachel, but it was like she was pretending to be Sarah. What I had forgotten was, in that same scene, Sarah was pretending to be Rachel, and it was all a ruse to fool Ferdinand. So that is why I thought they had met, but not really.
Actually met. Okay, that makes things, that clears up a few things. So this really was the first time that Rachel and Allison had met face to face.
Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
I would like to say that, of course, I was fooled by that. Of course I was, because if Ferdinand was fooled by it, why wouldn't I be fooled by it?
It's the magic of Tatiana Maslany.
And it's just another testament to how great she is. Or how I've watched a lot of television since episode 1 of season 3 of Orphan Black. One or the other. So this episode starts off with Susan now being healed with PT.
They have some history. Don't they?
I like that we also find out his name is Percival. The P stands
Percy.
for...
I'm going to call him Percy from now on.
Now we just have to find out what the T stands for.
Theodore.
Percival Theodore Westmoreland.
Isn't that the most pretentious name you've ever heard?
Well, we found out, not to jump too much ahead, but we found out a lot about PT, that he was like one of
Thanks to some crack research.
Yes.
Done. Way to go. Good reporting, guys.
Scott doing a great job.
Being a sleuth.
He went missing in the jungles of Borneo in 1898.
How convenient.
Yeah, again, I believe, as I think Megan does, I don't want to speak for you, but that somebody has just assumed his identity. I still do not believe this man is in his 170s.
I concur with that assessment. This is total malarkey. To use an old-timey word, this is total malarkey.
I think that word probably predates PT. So I'm still going by that theory, but clearly he has a long history of working with Susan. And that history...
History. Oink.
Ah, see,
Oink,
you're
oink.
saying it's more than just... it's more
history, oink.
It's more than a vision that they shared.
Eyebrow raising.
Alright, okay. That's part of...
Raises eyebrows suggestively.
What's the point of running some weird cult if you're not going to sleep with the people? That makes sense.
He had a husband, though.
That makes sense. But we also, in the opening, find out a pig is missing. And Charlotte...
I did not care for this.
Charlotte and Aisha... They adorably go looking for the pig.
I mean, all the weirdness aside, I think that their blooming friendship is adorable.
I kind of found it adorable, too. I kind of find them...
I want them to join a mystery club, and I want them to go around and solve mysteries.
Well,
They're very smart children.
Well, Charlotte and Aisha were trying to solve the mystery of the missing pig, and they went into the woods to discover the pig was there still.
And had a chunk of it taken out.
By the way, that pig seemed, for a pig missing a giant chunk of it, seemed like it was doing pretty well.
I was going to say, this is one of those episodes where it's really important, where at the very end they have to go, no animals were harmed in the making of this episode.
That pig seemed to be doing just fine.
Yeah, he seemed pretty chill for a pig that had a few strips of bacon pulled from him.
But they also discovered a human tooth. And she, of course, brings a human tooth to Cosima.
Did anybody, like, before Mud, like, shooed them away, was anybody else, like expect, because there was a bunch of, like, bird, like, nest remains and broken eggs and things like that, did anybody think that, like, if one of them had taken a wrong step, like, a trap would have sprung, and they would have been, like, up in this tree in this very primitive, like, hunter-gatherer sort of trap?
Well, you know, the people of Revival know there's an ogre in the woods.
A bear. It's a bear.
And it wouldn't shock me if it had ended up being a trap, because those other guys with the guns who were clearly hunting it are yelling at Mud at one point about, where is it? Where is it? And it wouldn't be shocked if they would set some sort of trap like that, at least down the line. Mud, let's talk about Mud for a second. Mud is covering up. Mud is protecting the creature in the woods. Mud is
Sloth
protecting...
from the Goonies.
Basically. Mud is protecting PT. Mud is doing a lot of heavy lifting at Revival here.
Does anybody feel like... Because, I don't know, she looks very young. She looks like a 17-year-old. I'm sure the actress is much older, but she looks like a 17-year-old intern that they just saddled with all this responsibility. And I'm like, I feel like if you're going to have somebody protecting your super secret, special, awesome, failed experiment of, you know, genetic cloning patient zero, whatever you want to call him, I feel like you probably should put that in the hands of somebody who's a better liar.
It's a bear. It's just a bear.
She is the worst liar.
I was going to ask you, it's funny you bring up how young Mud looks, because I was going to ask you, and I was going to ask you, the audience, how old do you think Mud's supposed to be? Because, yeah, I haven't looked up the actress, but clearly she's probably older. But if someone...
She just probably has a very young face.
If someone told me she was a 14-year-old girl, I would believe it. If someone told me she was a 25-year-old girl, I'd believe it. I have no sense of how
Anywhere
old
from 14
Mud
to 27.
is. But she seems to be a big shot over at Revival. And I never thought when the season started the character Mud would start to play a big part. But she's keeping secrets left and right. And she's also, you know, I think she legitimately has taken a shine to Cosima and recognizes Cosima's importance because she's trying to protect her from all this stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, Cosima is very valuable from everybody's point of view. She's valuable as a clone. She's valuable as a scientist. And, you know, she's genuinely, like, a pretty awesome, just general, all-around person. So, yeah, it's very easy to see why people will take a shine to her for a number of reasons. But, yeah, Mud... I feel like part of me wants to say she's just 17. Like, she seems to me to be a very smart person. Otherwise, she wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, she definitely seems to be somebody who's been saddled with way more responsibility than they are capable of handling. And like I said, she's a terrible liar.
Yeah.
She's the worst at lying. Or maybe... I don't know, maybe this society in general is just really bad at keeping their secrets. For a really overarching, big, bad, clandestine organization, they're really bad at lying.
Well, Mud is. I mean, you could argue the Neolutions have been pretty good at lying up until this point.
Up until now, we just thought they were party animals. She's probably like, when do I get to be transferred over to the club?
Yeah, when do I
just want to go and hang out and make out with boys and drink and dance.
I can't wait for the episode where Mud gets a tail. But PT, she even goes into PT's house and is like running medical tests with him, like trying to keep him youthful.
Is that what the kids are calling it these days?
Well, you know, it's interesting because we were talking about what's going on in the island. It doesn't seem like it's a whole society.
Thank God.
It's not the others.
Ugh, thank you. Thank you, Lord.
But we should have known from the beginning, once they got to an island, there would be a bunch of mistakes there because the island of Dr. Moreau has played such a big role in this series in general. It's funny. I feel like the Cosima and Sarah stories cross over more than they usually do. But let's kind of see Cosima's through before we get to Sarah. It does become kind of like a horror movie. Like, Cosima follows Mud into PT's home, watches her, like, doing the tests on him, goes down into the basement, and his basement is a house of horrors.
What's in the basement?
There are chains, there's blood,
By the way, I mean, if this creature has been loose for some time now, why didn't anybody clean that up? They were waiting for somebody to stumble across it in a dramatically convenient fashion.
Mud's got a lot of responsibilities. Now you want to clean up all the blood, too?
Yes! Maybe if she actually cleaned once in a while, she wouldn't be so chipper.
So, Cosima...
Carnival of Horrors down there.
And Mud, of course, finds her and is like, you shouldn't be here. Get out of here.
He can't find you in here. And it's like, who are you referring to? Are you referring to PT or are you referring to the creature?
Well, that's the other thing. Earlier in the episode, she keeps saying, like, oh, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. And I wasn't sure whether she was talking about who's she more loyal to, PT or the creature in the woods? Because, I wonder what her history is with that creature in the woods.
And it also seems like, because there's a group of men dedicated to trying to hunt down this creature, but she's vehemently denying knowing anything about it, it also makes me think that, like, there's not a huge wealth of information being shared, even amongst the people living here, because they are completely unaware of what this thing is, and she keeps insisting it's just a bear, even though they clearly know better. It's like, why hide that information from them? It's 'cause PT's a charlatan.
Yeah, he's keeping secrets. Mm-hmm. So eventually Cosima, of course, because following her into the house and then having to leave isn't good enough, she follows her into the woods. Cosima showing no fear.
Good for her.
And we get a glimpse of they didn't give him a name, did they?
No, but the original clone experiment, somebody who predated Kendall, whose genetic code they were trying to unlock, but something went wrong and all these tumors started appearing. I don't know, maybe it's just because I am a big horror movie fan, but I was a little underwhelmed with the appearance of the actual creature.
You wanted him to be... Well, we haven't seen him in the light.
We saw enough of him. I was a little underwhelmed. I was having Goonie flashbacks. I was like, okay, yeah, he's just Sloth from the Goonie.
We know he has bad teeth because they keep falling out.
He just wants a group of young adventurers to come and make friends with him so he can be like, hey, you guys, and go on an adventure with them and find pirate treasure.
That's going to be Charlotte and Aisha. They're going to befriend him.
They need to go on a quest to try to find pirate treasure while also thwarting some bank robbers for some reason. And they'll make friends with him and all will be right in the world.
So, yeah, we did discover he was the original. And I think this is something... we really speculated already that whatever was out there was going to be original experiments that didn't quite work out.
Yeah, I was surprised that it was just a single individual. I definitely thought that this was going to be a multitude of failed experiments and that there would be a group of these sort of feral human beings running around on the island. Not that I'm not happy it's just one, but at the same time I'm like, I'm wondering if that's not the end of it, like if there's not a lot more to these failed experiments. Like, how many people did they actually go through before they found Kendall? Especially if this guy has been at it for as long as he says he's been at it.
Well, do you remember in season 2 when they were trying to find Rachel's father, Duncan, Ethan Duncan.
Yes.
When they were trying to find Ethan Duncan and they go to that creepy lab or basement of that and they find like perfect baby and they find all those things. I mean, somebody's been working in like eugenics for a long time here. But yeah, this is their failed experiment that we also find out later in the episode. Cody wanted to keep pushing. She didn't mind this She
called Duncan squeamish.
Yeah.
Like, she was like, Susan
couldn't deal with creating people with tumors, sickly, feral people.
Susan had a conscience.
Cody
did. Little bit of a conscience. At least a smidgen of a conscience.
But Lita's always had more of a conscience than Castor, because Castor was just running around making women infertile.
Yeah, they were going around doing genocide-y things.
So let's backtrack here.
Yeah.
To the other story that's going on at the same time, and this is the Sarah-Kira storyline.
Yes.
As we kind of predicted last week, Sarah did find out that Kira was cutting herself.
It was so upsetting.
And, you know, she's hiding it pretty well until she gets a hug and reacts to it.
Yeah,
and
she's like, it totally doesn't hurt, even though I just indicated that it did.
But, you know, she's, in a weird way, Kira is also trying to protect Rachel, because Rachel didn't do that to her.
No.
But she knows Rachel's going to get blamed for it.
And I love the way that Kira puts it later in the episode. She's like, I'm trying to help Mom, but she's so stupid, she's not letting me. Which is such like a daughter thing to say. Of like, Mom thinks she knows what's best for me, but I totally know what's best for me.
Well, this is, again, and we talked about the last week or the week before that Skylar Wexler is getting more to do. And, you know, she's getting older, and it's showing in the performance now. Like, they have, like, an actual combative mother-daughter relationship going on, and it's feeling a little more real and a little more grounded.
Yeah.
And Kira is becoming less an object for everyone to fight over or wonder about, and more an actual character. This is the most she's been an actual character.
Yeah.
And
she's displayed more agency than she has in I think all of the prior seasons, because all of the prior seasons she's been this wide-eyed, adorable little girl that everybody can, as you pointed out, fuss over, and basically she's kind of like the MacGuffin of the series.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, we have to get Kira back. Oh no, Kira's been kidnapped. Oh no, like Kira magically fixed Cosima somehow. And yeah, very little of her actual character has been directed by her own choices, and that's just, she's a child, you know. But here, as she's getting older, we're really seeing her come into her own and develop this kind of resentment at being treated like this volleyball that just gets passed around all the time. So it's kind of fascinating to see this sort of resentment build up a little bit.
Yeah, it's some good stuff, and it's stuff that had to happen. And it also, again, jumping around a little bit with Kira, because Kira doesn't go to school that day, she stays with Uncle Felix, which was also fun to see the two of them together. But also there's a great moment where he's saying, like, oh, you look like, she even acknowledged, oh, I look like my mom, and she's clearly becoming her mother. Her mother is combative, like she's being. I mean, she's taking after Sarah.
Which is the last thing Sarah probably wants, is a daughter who acts like her.
And, you know, there's a line from the doctor that they kind of pull their scam on.
I loved this line.
And the line is, the daughter is struggling with what it means to become you. And then that Kira scene is the same exact thing. Sarah's struggling with what it means to become S, and Kira's struggling with what it means to become Sarah, because they are all the same. Mm-hmm. And this episode was one of the best episodes ever at showing how similar her and S are, and what Sarah really, you know, for all S being down on, like, Sarah's behavior over the years, she learned it from watching you. She learned it from watching you, Mrs. S.
I love that, like, kind of the theme of this episode was very much the cyclical nature of coming of age. Because Kira is becoming Sarah is becoming more like S, and S, you know, is probably, you know, if she keeps going down the course that she is, will eventually become a lot like Kendall.
Yeah. Just be yelling and smoking and cursing at everyone.
It's 3 generations, because Kendall's gone, but it's 3 generations of women, and there's a clear cycle to things. And again, if we're looking at 3-act structures of a story, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And so kind of just interesting story parallels there.
So look, here's the thing. Even though Rachel didn't tell Kira, you could cut yourself and it'll magically heal, and you're like that mouse that grows back its own skin, which we were sent a great article about, which I retweeted, and I failed to write down which of the many fans sent it to us. You're all wonderful. I apologize, but I did retweet it, so hopefully you saw it, but it was about the actual science behind this. But, so, even though Rachel didn't say, oh, this will happen, or you are exactly like this mouse, Sarah has every right to be pissed. I mean, you find out that your daughter is cutting herself, and there's some influence from the shady scientists
having not known what Rachel and what transpired between Rachel and Kira, yes, she has every right to be angry. But I hate to say it, in Rachel's defense, I don't think that was her intention at all.
It wasn't.
I think she has a genuine affection for Kira, and I don't think that she would want Kira to be going around cutting herself. Although she would be like, so how quickly did it heal back?
Yeah, she'd want the answers.
You shouldn't do that. But since we're here.
So they decide, though, to get Kira out of this whole thing. And clearly, the clones are going to have to find a way to get them. Even without Kira, at some point, they're going to have to get themselves out of under the thumb of Neolution. Because it's affecting Allison. They want Helena's babies. They want, Casima's there on Dr. Moreau.
Yeah.
So they need the leverage, and she's been getting some tips from an inside source, who is obviously Delphine.
Yeah.
But she's been getting the tips from the inside source. She's still playing that close to the vest. And they're
not telling anybody, not even Sarah.
Yeah. So S can keep a secret. She's a better liar than Mud. Mud should get some tips from S. So they go, and this was some of my favorite stuff with the mother-daughter relationship stuff. They need to infiltrate not an insane asylum, but a hospital.
Yes.
And to do that, they have to steal the identity of Dr. Elizabeth Perkins. Elizabeth Perkins, so good in movies like Big. No? Nobody's laughing at that joke? She was the actress from Big. Anyway, not the actress in the show. The actress's name was Elizabeth Perkins. You don't remember?
I love that movie.
Anyway, the point is, Dr. Elizabeth Perkins, who has her own strained relationship with her daughter, and
apparently her daughter's suing her, or was it the other way around?
They don't like each other.
No.
But at least she sees Sarah and S fighting. She's like, at least you guys are talking.
I don't know, man. I've never gotten bourbon in my eyes. I don't know. Does that burn? I feel like that would burn.
I don't think it would
lot.
I don't think it would be good.
I don't think it would be pleasant in any way, shape, or form. So kudos to S for not immediately going, my eyes. That was a neat bourbon too.
And let me tell you what, that scene was great. That was just great performances by Maria Doyle Kennedy and Tatiana Maslany, and how well they work off each other. Because they go into what is a very real disagreement, and they go seamlessly into their grift.
On the one hand, almost when Sarah starts walking over, you almost think that she's doing this against S's wishes. But in fact, even if S was like, okay, I guess that's what we're doing, they adjust very, very quickly, and they just go right into it. They should start in an improv troupe together. Really, forget this life of crime. Just start doing improv together, guys. You're fantastic. The only thing I will say, and this is the only reason I bring it up, is because there are very few things in Orphan Black that break my suspension of disbelief, even when it gets into the magical realism or the extra fantastical. I will say that the doctor getting up from her chair to go and help out S, it kind of I think she's a great actress for sure, but it definitely looked like she was waiting for her cue to stand up, and hand over napkins. Like, she looked like she was waiting for Sarah to get out of the way so that she could stand up and help. And that was the only thing that I was like, that was poor blocking. And again, if we're talking about, I'm nitpicking.
Well,
this is
that's the nittiest nitpick.
Nittiest nitpick I've ever nitpicked.
Well, that actress playing Dr. Elizabeth Perkins was no Elizabeth Perkins.
Well, no, I'm gonna blame this on the director of the episode, because he or she should know how to direct your actors to not look like they're waiting for their cue.
Well, the grift works. And they get her ID, and of course Sarah gets it back just in time.
And I love the way they did that, too. Talking about things I do believe. Her putting down her computer and saying, like, oh, that's where I put it. Because I do that all the time.
Your phone is in the car.
Yep. My phone is not on my person at the moment.
So, what's great about that scene, it is like this con artist ballet between them. Mm-hmm. They get the ID, and they go to pose as Elizabeth Perkins. They make a stop before they get there, but we'll deal with that separately. So they go, and the con continues, and of course, S is a jerk to her assistant. And Sarah has to kind of eat some shit.
Like, help me.
And of course he's going to help her.
Can I just say...
Because that guy's probably a put-upon assistant, too.
I would watch an entire series of just S and Sarah running cons together.
Yeah.
Like, a mother-daughter con team would just be absolutely delightful to watch. But yeah, I really felt for I know Sarah's playing a character in this moment, but I felt for her character, and I felt for the assistant who fell for their rouge.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I've been an assistant who's been treated poorly. I get you guys. I get you.
And of course, because of that, they get in and they find out the mystery person they're going to find there is Dr. Virginia Cody, who Sarah is not too pleased to see.
No.
I like that they give her a shot of adrenaline because they're keeping Cody completely knocked out at this place, and then Sarah's slapping her around. Like, I don't blame. I mean, Cody is a terrible person.
She did terrible things.
And Cody is the one who basically fills us in on the experiment. And it was a good bit of cross-cutting the episode did. As we see Cosima going in the basement and stuff, we hear Cody talking about the failed experiment.
Yeah.
It added to the dread.
Excellent editing. Excellent storytelling.
So Cody is basically like, I'll help you. You got to get me out of here. And of course, at that time, the real doctor shows up. Not Perkins, but the doctor they were going there to meet. Whose name I didn't write down because I didn't expect we would ever see him.
Who cares?
And in that moment, Cody flips out. Now, this scene actually threw me a little bit. Because clearly her and Sarah hate each other for good reason. But also, in the scene, Cody grabs her badge. And at first I thought it was kind of an intentional Sarah kind of letting her grab it, but also Cody is stepping out of character. She's not playing her wrong because she's screaming Sarah at her. So I wasn't sure...
How much of this was play acting to allow them an exit, and how much of it was Cody getting her badge so that, like, she would potentially have a way out?
Yeah, I honestly was not sure if Cody is just losing her goddamn mind, or whether this was some play acting.
I think it's a little of column A, a little of column B.
Okay.
I think it was partially like, I'm gonna pretend to be crazy so that they have a way out of here, because right now they are my best chance of getting out of here, but also, just in case they leave me out to dry, I'm gonna grab this visitor's badge. So that's my guess. But I don't know. You can't trust Cody.
I mean, obviously if she grabbed the badge, we're going to see more Cody.
Yes.
She's going to get out of there.
I feel like they wouldn't focus on that moment if we were just never going to see her again.
I wonder how much Cody we're actually going to get. Because, now that we know she's alive, we got to see her get hers. Because she ran experiments on Sarah. She ran experiments on Helena. I mean, she's a terrible person.
She almost killed Sarah.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for Sarah magic? If it wasn't for Sarah's magical genes, like, she would have been killed as a result.
And if it wasn't for Paul intervening and dying himself.
Poor Paul.
If it wasn't for Helena coming back for Sarah. Like, there were a lot of things that went right for them to escape Cody.
Yeah. R.I.P. Paul.
But I feel like Cody... Okay, we find out that Susan Duncan was the one who put her in this institution. I'm assuming Cody is going to go for revenge. I wouldn't be shocked if there is some major conflict between Susan and Cody in which they both end up dead at the end.
Which is interesting because Ira and Susan have been reunited. So it's like, I wonder if... Wouldn't it be interesting if Cody tried to get revenge and Ira ended up killing her so that the last face she sees before she dies is the face of, like, her sons?
You know what's interesting is what do we think Ira's involvement with Cody was? Because he was caster. So I assume at some point...
He's made a point of saying, like, don't loop me in with all of those guys. They're killers, they're soldiers, I'm different.
But he knew all those guys. I'm assuming he came up with them, with Cody, and then was either rescued by Susan or just didn't have it in him and went to... Right? Because...
I feel like he wasn't brought up with them in any way, shape, or form. I feel like he was made, and, like, they handed one over to Lita. I don't know, maybe they handed one caster clone over to Lita, and maybe they handed one Lita clone over to Caster.
I think
I don't know.
If Cody comes back into play in a big way, I think it's going to be interesting to see what her relationship
with
was or becomes with Ira. Because when Ira finds out Cody was locked up, he's a little horrified. But is that because he has some feelings towards Cody as well? Or is it just because Ira's a goody two-shoe who's like, we can't hurt anybody?
I was going to say, it may very well be just because he's like, it's barbaric to treat a person like that. Talking about how squeamish Susan is, maybe it just surprised him so much that she would be that ruthless to anybody.
Ira loves Susan, his mother lover,
I
much.
hate it so much.
That's why I said it.
It's so gross.
Because I knew you hate it.
Why? Why do you do this to me?
He loves her so much, but he does not approve of even her going along with PT. And she keeps saying, we shared the same vision. We just didn't have the same means. And we discover that PT needs Susan's scientific knowledge, scientific abilities.
Wink!
So, and Ira is jealous.
I was going to say, maybe Ira's just threatened.
Maybe Ira will take out PT before this is all over. Or maybe Ira will be the one to expose him. I mean, look, here's the thing. You have Ira on the island. You're going to have Delphine back at some point. You got Cosima. I mean, Ira, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a lot of Ira and Cosima working together.
Maybe.
At some point on this.
That's a possibility. I want to take a second to, like, rewind to our AfterBuzz days, a prediction Matt Lieberman made back in the day. I remember, like, towards the end of, I want to say it was season 3, he was like, well, the next step is going public, right? Like, they have to go public, and that's where, ultimately, where the next season's going to go. And obviously we haven't done that yet. And I'm wondering if Ira's going to play a big role in exposing PT and Neolution for the atrocities that they've committed, and also for the charlatan that PT actually is.
You know, I keep saying this series is going to end on a positive note with the Sestras kind of together, but I remember him making that prediction, and we haven't talked about that. Will the series end with the world knowing about the clones? And I wonder if the series ends with, we're clones, we're here, get used to it kind of thing.
On the one hand, I think it would be awesome if they did that. My only problem is that, like, for a happy ending, a quote-unquote happy ending,
they gotta be their quiet lives.
They have to be able to live normal lives. If we wanted to explore what their lives would be like with the world knowing that they're clones, then that would be content for an entire season.
Yeah, they'd have to really do a good job, put a really neat bow on it, if they were exposed to the world.
Like, we would have to fast forward 6 months to where, like, the media frenzy has sort of died down a little bit, and they're sort of allowed to get back to their normal life.
Crystal's going to be a superstar. She's going to embrace that thing.
She'll have her own reality TV show.
And, I also wonder, there are other clones out there, and I wonder if at some point in the end of this series, as, we have the cure, that Cosima's cure works, if we're ever going to get, like, the tone of this would have to be done really well, otherwise it could be cheesy, but if we get, like, all of a sudden we see clones around the world, like, getting this cure, like, and Tatiana Maslany in the last 10 minutes of this series gets to play 12 new characters that we don't get to really meet, but, I wouldn't be shocked if we see something.
That would be so fun.
So Susan basically says, okay, I'll work with your PT, but I want full access to all the cure research. And he basically says, sure, but
Done.
Rachel is still in charge. So this is going to cause a big problem between the two.
Especially because Susan clearly resents him for turning her daughter against her, even though, come on, Susan, you weren't exactly Mother of the Year.
Yeah.
Don't put all of this on PT. Although, at what point, at what point in Rachel's upbringing, who made the call that the Duncans needed to fake their own deaths? Was that a Leaky call? Was that a PT call? And then it was just trickled down to Leaky?
I think it's becoming clear
that something they both decided would be best?
I think it's become clear that everything has been a PT call. Whatever we thought we knew from the past, it's all been manipulated by PT.
Susan refers to Rachel as his corporate something, I don't recall. Like that corporate psychopath. That's what she says. Has finally paid off, and it's like, you were the one in charge of raising her.
But he wanted this to end up happening. PT got everything he wanted.
She could have put her foot down and said, no, not my daughter. Not without my daughter.
But there's something that PT can't crack. Like, PT's not the end-all, be-all scientist here, because otherwise he wouldn't need Susan, he wouldn't need Rachel, he wouldn't need Kira magic.
Sounds kind of fishy for a guy who's been around for 180 years.
Yeah. Look, this whole episode, all we've been talking about is cons and grifts and things like that. There's no way this guy is a con man.
No.
Of course, cut to 4 weeks from now or something, we're doing an episode, well, they proved it. He's 107,
He's got like a Lazarus pit in one of the caves on the island.
So that's pretty much where I feel like this was a lot of setting up the next battles in Neolution, because now Cody's a player again. Susan's back. Susan's going to be fighting with Rachel. Ira's on the on. I feel like all the chess pieces are getting into place.
There's one thing you haven't mentioned yet.
Oh, we're not wrapping up.
Okay. I was going to say.
There are 2 more things I want to bring up.
Of course.
Well, first of all, let's do
chess pieces.
Let's mention one more chess piece that's now into play, and this is one of the 2 things I wanted to bring up. I was not going to forget. Well, first of all, Adele's back in the picture.
Yes! I am so happy.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun, and S filled her in on everything.
Which Felix is like, she had no right to do that. There was a reason I kept you in the dark about a lot of that stuff.
And a lot of it was her own kind of safety. But Adele's, as long as there's a bottle around, Adele's up for anything. Including...
I love how nonchalant she is about clones.
Including tracking patents, global profit flow in Switzerland. Which apparently her and Felix are going to Switzerland to track...
Like Neolution funds, right?
Yeah, global profit flow. Which does not sound that exciting. What does sound exciting is the 2 of them on an adventure.
That does sound great.
And I've been a big proponent of we gotta give Felix his own thing to do that's separated from his sister.
I love how, like, not into this adventure, he sounds like, because she rattles that off. She's like, how does that sound to you? And he's like, you could just see it on his face. He's like, that sounds like the most boring thing in the entire world.
Also, he's got a gallery opening in 3 weeks.
Yeah, he doesn't have time for this.
Which, now that they have set that up, you know we are going to get to see some amazing gallery opening.
That's going to be our big Alice and Felix episode this season.
Oh, you think so? You think we're going to get an Alice and Felix episode?
Yes.
I have the prediction.
It's Chekhov's art gallery opening.
I think we're not going to... You know what? I don't think we're going to see Allison again until she shows up at his art opening.
She'll show up for the art gallery to be like, I am here for you, Felix.
How are these Sestra's going to balance it? They can't all show up at the art gallery opening.
No, just Allison. He showed up for her play when no one else did.
Will Sarah show up at her brother's gallery? She'll probably
Not if she's on the island of Dr. Moreau.
Fighting Neolution. Or maybe that's going to be the big, kind of end
like
of the
debate a couple seasons ago.
Well, actually, maybe the art gallery opening is being set up for the last episode, when I predict there's going to be this really happy moment where all the Sestras are together.
They all come to see her.
And there's going to be portraits of all of them.
That's going to be beautiful.
Is that how the series is going to end?
Oh, I'm into it.
I'm into it too. I have no idea if that's how the series... I think you've understood the theme of our recap show this year has been wild predictions on how the final episode is going to be.
Can I just... I do want to pose a question about this moment between Adele and Felix.
Yeah.
How toasted do you think she was when S called and said, by the way, all of Felix's sisters are actually clones?
Toasted enough that clones made perfect sense to her in that moment.
She was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I buy that.
So we got one more Sestra to talk about.
So my client is a clone. Okay,
yeah.
okay, cool.
One more Sestra to talk about.
Yes.
Helena.
Oh.
Who... It was a really wonderful scene.
I loved this scene so much.
We found out that Helena was not in Eastern Europe at some convent.
No.
She was in Canada. And she was being taken care of by a nun who stood up for her back in the day, so they cut out her tongue for blasphemy.
Jesus!
Yeah. But, it's so...
I don't know. Okay, they're talking about Proletheans, right? Because
yeah.
Regular Catholic churches don't do that.
Well, it was. She was raised
as
by
far as I know.
She was raised by the Proletheans to kill.
That poor nun.
And that nun, but I love how Helena just says it so nonchalantly. Like, they cut out her tongue.
She stood up for me, so they cut out her tongue. She's still cool about it, though.
Sarah goes to the convent, and it's a really emotional scene between them. And she apologized for being a bad sister. And you know what? She hasn't been a great sister. She's kept Helena out of the loop. She hasn't always put or considered Helena's needs. I'm not saying she should put Helena's needs above Kira's or something like that, but she hasn't considered them.
Well, even when she was trying to be a good sestra, S sold her out to Castor. And so, she tried to go and get Helena back, but, that was a huge, oh, you sold me out sort of misunderstanding. But even before that, when Helena initially came back into the picture, Sarah was mortified because she's like, you're dead. What? No, this can't be a thing.
Well, the other thing is, Helena has as much to lose, if not more, because now of her babies. She has as much or more to lose than as any of them, and she is consistently kept in the dark, and she is consistently almost an afterthought to them.
The entire last season, she was basically an afterthought.
Yeah,
because there was a lot of stuff going on. I don't think Sarah and Helena had one, maybe they talked on the phone, but I don't think they had one face-to-face scene all season.
This is the first time they had a face-to-face scene probably since that clone dinner at the end of season 3.
Yeah, they talked on the phone, but this is the first time they've been face to face.
And that's what I mean, where she hasn't thought about Helena in those terms. And Helena was living in a yurt out in the wilderness.
She was hanging out at the Hendricks Casa, and then lived in a yurt for a little while.
So it was a really great scene between them.
I loved it. I thought, like, it was the emotional high point of the entire episode. I thought it was beautiful. It was a beautiful scene between Sestras.
And, here's my one worry.
Go ahead.
Because it was such a nice emotional scene, and Helena's at this convent, and she's safe, and obviously she can't go fighting yet.
Don't like where this is going.
Is Helena going to be sidelined for most of this season?
Oh, good. Okay. Sorry, I thought you were going to predict character death.
I mean, I think I again, much like with us, I think Helena's going to go away for a little while, have the babies, then Neolution's going to come for the babies, and she's going to fight them off like a badass.
This is what, episode 3?
4.
Episode 4? Yeah,
only 6 hours to go.
I kind of assumed she would have the babies already, but maybe they're saving that for kind of series end sort of thing. Like, they're going to wait until, like, the final 3 episodes of the series before she actually has the babies.
I mean, I keep saying this crazy happy thing, and now I say it's going to happen at Felix's
They go to the art gallery, and then her water breaks, and they all have to rush to the hospital, 9-month style, and it's this crazy set of shenanigans, and then they all get there, and then she delivers twins, and everybody is there, and it's a big happy family moment, and everything is fine forever.
The only problem
Uh-huh.
is we need to have one more scene where Helena is kicking ass. That's why I gotta believe she is gonna have these babies before the last episode. That she's gonna have them in like episode 8 or something like that, and then by episode 10 she's gonna get to like smash someone's head
now
in.
That I've
Cody
said it,
maybe. Cody's.
Now that I've said it though, that's like all I want. I want
No,
the 9 months sort of finale.
You want the ultra happy ending?
I do. Is that wrong? Oh.
So that's. I think we covered everything.
I think so.
I know it was weird. Like I said, it was usually we're able to divide it a little bit more, but the story's connected more than usual.
It wasn't as like clear cut A clone, B clone, C clone storyline this time around.
And I also think we have to wrap up because I did not take the sun setting into, and you are disappearing into the shadows. So
it actually hasn't been too bad since we're right by the window. As long as I lean in, I'm good.
Exactly. Next time, remind me to turn the light on. But you are not going to be with us next week.
No, guys. For those of you who kind of follow me on Twitter and on AfterBuzz and everything like that, this coming week I am traveling to Austin, Texas for RTX to do press coverage there. We're going to have 2 panels. One panel is the AfterBuzz panel that's there on Friday, and then my good friend Katie Cullen and I are going to be at the RT Reacts panel on Saturday. And then all throughout the weekend, we're going to be doing interviews with Rooster Teeth cast and crew there at RTX. So be sure to check out the AfterBuzz YouTube channel for all of those fun interviews. Be sure to check out our Twitters and stuff for press updates for when we get to go to press conferences and stuff. It's going to be a hoot.
Have you ever been to Austin?
I have. I've been to RTX 2 years now. This will be my 3rd year.
Okay.
I'm so excited.
I've never been. Everyone says it's great, and I keep thinking one year I have to go down to one of those festivals they have.
Austin is so cool, and for anybody who's a big film fan, Austin is like the place to go for filmmakers in Texas. Like, that's where a lot of actors go. That's where a lot of indie filmmakers go.
Robert Rodriguez, Richard Linklater, they're all Austin guys.
Exactly. Austin is a wonderful town. And not to mention that it's just, humidity-wise, I'm going to melt and die, and I will be very sad when I do that. But it is just such an artistic, interesting town, and it's a place I've been to a couple times, and I'm really excited because I'm going down a couple days early, so hopefully I'll get to play tourist for a little bit. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Well, you get one. You get to miss one of these shows a season.
Just one.
But you will be back the week after that. So next week, will I try to bring in a co-host? Maybe. Will that end up happening? Probably not. Are you gonna have to deal with one episode where it's just me yelling into a computer screen my thoughts on the episode. Yes.
Yeah, because I'm taking this camera with me. Sorry.
So,
sorry, Will.
It's okay. So you're gonna have to, but you'll get by. You'll get by. You know what you're probably gonna get next week? I'm gonna be out Saturday, and I'm gonna come home at like 1 a.m. I'm gonna watch the episode. You're gonna get some weird 3 a.m. recap from me.
Where you're just yelling into your
Well,
iPhone.
I'm just like, can you believe what Cosima did? Like, I'm just screaming into it.
It's going to be awesome.
But where can the people find out everything about you?
You guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheMenguin. That's TheMenguin. As I mentioned before, I'm on a bunch of shows at a network called AfterBuzz TV. I also write articles for The Movie Chick. I do the voice of Margot Lane on the The Shadow Radio Recreation. A new episode just uploaded yesterday. And I also do fun horror-related things on my YouTube channel, Silver Screen. So be sure to check all that fun stuff out. If you don't want to keep up with all of that, just follow me on Twitter and you'll see various updates.
The reason I don't do that many things is because I would never remember to plug all those things. You're very good with that. Every week I'm like,
just stick with Twitter and you're good.
How does she know? You can follow me on Twitter at The Real Will Link. And you can listen to my podcast, Will Sean Podcast. We talk about fun pop culture things. On the episode that is going up this very night, we make some what we hope to see at the Emmys.
Ooh.
And also we discuss, is Star Wars in trouble?
Because of Han Solo?
Spoiler alert, maybe.
Oh.
Star Wars is too big to fail. It's probably not in trouble. But still, there's a lot going on in the world of Star Wars.
A trilogy of prequels to prove you wrong.
That's true, but you still and they still come. I'm going to end on this note about prequels. Me and my friends have noticed in a long enough conversation between film geeks, the prequels will always come up, no matter what. You could start it could start off about the most pretentious film things, and the prequels will always eventually.
It's like that internet argument of eventually everything will come back to Hitler.
It's the same thing. The prequels and Hitler. So I will see you next week.
I'll be back soon, guys. In the meantime, Helena. Can Helena be your co-host?
Yes.
Yay!